Welcome to our video discussion series, EduTalks Tips and Tricks for Online Teaching. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, click on the bell button so you can get notified when the new episode comes out, and you can follow us on social media. Today my guest is Gus Worth. He has been an educator and writer for the past 20 years. What's shocked me is that he has been published at the age of 6. He has particular love for online teaching and specifically helping teachers find new tips and tricks for online teaching and engaging students all over the planet. Enjoy! First of all, I want to thank you for agreeing to be interviewed. And what's important about online teaching now? What would be additional thing that you would like to give as an advice for online teachers?
I would have several things, but I think the essential, there's two priorities as far as I'm concerned with online teaching. One is you try to replicate the classroom experience. That's for sure. You should be trying to make it somewhere similar, right? But the second is to try and make it better, to try and use online to give you extra value. That would be the two areas that I think everyone should be prioritizing. Focus on what can you do online that you cannot do easily in a classroom, right? Because you can never make it exactly like a classroom. But then I think people go into online teaching with a sort of a negative attitude of, well, I cannot do this and I cannot do that, and whereas you do have to just try and think of ways that will work. It's a different form. It's a different way of doing things.
What might you want to share as far as some specific how to do something?
I find, with online, as opposed to say in a classroom, one of the critical areas is to have rounds, right, where you go round all the students, right, which I don't always do in a classroom, right. I often will just throw it out to the class, and let whoever wants to answer. But I think in an online classroom, rounds work better. You ask all the students in turn. They all get their turn and they know they're going to get their turn. And I find that works better online. As the critical thing online is the interaction.
Yeah.
You've got to get them involved. You got to get them to interact. And so no matter what, you've got to get them to work. But the other area I think that is a big boon in online teaching is getting lots of people to work simultaneously on a task or a document. It's much easier online. If you're in a classroom, it's very hard to, they all have to if you want them to all work in a document, they all have to have a tablet or laptop or something in the classroom, which you don't necessarily have. Online they have, right? Yeah. And so they can work on it either directly or on the chat, where they say, well, what about this or that or both, use the doc and the chat simultaneously. Again, something that you can't easily do in a classroom. It's far harder to work on a joint venture if you're sitting in a classroom.
What are other advantages? You already mentioned that some teachers find it difficult to teach online. What other advantages would you like to share specifically with them so that they change their mind, hopefully, eventually?
Well, yeah, I mean, they have to work on themselves. They have to, it's not going to happen overnight. You're not going to wake up overnight and be a good online teacher. So you got to watch videos and you got to read tips and tricks and whatever, you have to do all these things. But the most important thing for me is that you have to be yourself as a teacher.
Yeah.
I think you can never be a good teacher without quite a bit of introspection. Yeah. You've got to look. You've got to look at yourself. You've got to say, what am I good at? What can I do well? What do I feel comfortable with, and so forth. So I would say to people, look at as many teachers as you can. right? But never try to copy them. Just try to learn. Try
Yeah.
to say, oh, I could do that. You might say, I could do that, right? This I like, and then you might say, yes, I like what they're doing, but it's not for me. It
Yeah.
works for them, and it doesn't work for me. Well, for me, the critical element, I think, for all teachers and students is in an understanding that students are different and teachers are different, and how they learn, what works for them is different. I mean, I've taught cultures. I've taught Chinese, for example. I've taught Indians. I have taught, obviously, Bulgarians, Eastern Europeans, Russians, and obviously Irish and English and whatever. So I've taught lots of different cultures. I've taught Arabs. But at one point in Ireland, I was teaching Chinese, mainly Chinese students and mainly Indian students, right? And there's a huge cultural difference between the two.
Yes.
They are both Asian, right? But there is not a huge deal of overlap. So the Chinese didn't want discussions. They only wanted tests and exercises. And they thought discussions were a waste of time. The Indians loved talking. They love the discussions. They love the visual. They love, being able to get up there and give a presentation or whatever. So you do, I think you do have to understand the culture. What I use is Howard Gardner's multiple intelligences.
Yes.
It gets them to think about what works for them, right? And some people are better learning from watching a video. Some people are better learning from reading. Some people are better learning when they actually physically do something. A lot of students like the Socratic method, where it's all questions. They're asking questions and they're answering them as well. But I always use Howard Gardner's multiple intelligences. I find it's a great way for them students to think about it, but it's also good for the teachers to think about themselves, what works for themselves. If I could give anyone one tip, I would give any teacher is to learn body language.
I was going to ask you exactly this thing, with body language being only from here to here in online setting. What are your tips and tricks for the online teachers to work on their body language and tonality of the voice so that there are engaging educators online?
There's no question about it that is difficult. There's no, and there's probably no easy answer. I mean, you do, if you have 8, 9, 10 students in your classroom, it's a lot easier. You can see them, and you can see are their eyes, because the eyes are the key. You've got to be capable of looking at them and seeing who's listening, who's aware, and so forth. If you have 30 little video screens, it's impossible.
Yeah.
You've got to accept that there's not much you can do about it. But with a small, I mean, it was one of the things that I really liked when I first started teaching online with Vedimo, was the fact that I would have 8, 10 students or less sometimes. And I could see them all simultaneously. I'd be watching, listening for the tone of voice, how they answer. If I randomly ask somebody a question, if they answer, and so forth. Whereas it is a challenge, but I think
it is actually a challenge even in live class if you have 30 students.
Absolutely.
Compared to online. In an online setting, you can group them. You can go to breakout rooms, which is actually a plus.
Oh, well, absolutely. The one that is one definite advantage of online teaching, the breakout rooms, that where you can put people in a group, and you can give them a task. You can also give different tasks to each of the groups, which is a little harder in a physical class to give different tasks to all the groups. But the big advantage online is that they're not bothered by the other groups. They are private, they're quiet. So if you put 4 people in a group, you can wander in and out as a teacher very, very easily, and there's no noise coming from other groups or answers coming from other groups or anything else. And so breakout rooms are a definite area that is better online. There's no question about that.
Before we close, is there anything that was left unsaid? Anything that you still want to give as a message as an online tips and tricks for teachers?
You have to be yourself. You have to find out what works for you, what you like doing, what you're comfortable with doing. Learn from everyone,
Yeah, learn from them, but don't copy paste them. Just be yourself. Beautiful.
Yes, absolutely. Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, you too. See you then.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Did you enjoy today's episode of EduTalks Tips and Tricks for Online Teaching with Gus Worth? Well, subscribe to our YouTube channel, follow us on social media, leave a comment below if you want to comment anything on anything that he shared, or if you want to be interviewed by me, I will be happy. And to do so, you need to send an email to info@vedemo.com. See you in the next episode.